So I'd now like to ask our Health Minister, Mr Greg Hunt, to open today's event. And I would again like to add that your support, Minister, has been exceptional, and I have been getting the same sort of support from both sides of the House and the crossbenchers. We just need you to understand that we need these drugs now and to give this extra life to people who deserve it, who struggle every day. So, Minister, would you like to come up and speak?
And thanks very much to Nettie and to Judith, who are doing so much together in leading the fight against and for cystic fibrosis. And Nettie, if you didn't exist, we'd have to invent you. And I think you might be officially declared a meteorological sort of phenomenon. So thank you for everything that you do. To Katie and Jess and to Anna, and to all of our cystic fibrosis families and siblings. Today's about you. It's about acknowledging the journey you're on, but also pointing to the future, and in particular acknowledging that for those who are on the journey with cystic fibrosis, they're only able to do it because they have very supportive siblings and parents, and I met other parents as well, and families and support groups around them. To my colleague, Catherine King, this is an area of complete agreement between all of the different parties, and to other MPs who've either been here or are here. So we know that every 4 days a child is born in Australia with cystic fibrosis. We know that it's a challenge throughout life. And so there are two big things that we're looking to do. One is to help with treatment. The second is to help with research. In terms of the treatment, I was very fortunate a year ago to be able to work with many people, including Nettie, on the listing of Kalydeco. That's made a real difference to many families that followed the PBAC listing. Now, of course, everybody is rightly focused on Orkambi, and we are working hard that PBAC will make its decision on the next round in the coming weeks or so, and my commitment is clear and absolute today. If they approve it, we will list it, and indeed we want to work to make sure that there's the earliest and as close to possible as immediate access for every person who qualify under that. And I think that that's a profoundly important moment for the cystic fibrosis community in Australia. So we hope, and I remain sort of hopeful that that will be the case. It will run its course, but we'll find out shortly. But in the meantime, I've met with, so I've been very open about this, I've met with the proponents and sponsors and encourage them to meet with and work with the PBAC, so as that all the evidence they need is there. And I remain quietly hopeful. The other thing that's happening in terms of treatment, on Sunday, 6 new Medicare items will be listed for screening for cystic fibrosis, and they really cover 3 patient groups. They cover prenatal testing, they cover those that are deemed to be at risk and showing some signs potentially of cystic fibrosis, and then those that are family members of people with cystic fibrosis. So that should make an important difference in both the costs but also the screening to help us identify what we can do. And then the big future, of course, is research. We know that there's a new generation drug over and above Orkambi that's coming, what they refer to as next gen. That's likely to have a huge potential impact in lung function and to profoundly change lives and conditions. It's going through its FDA consideration and approval in the United States, and we've encouraged them to bring that to Australia as soon as it's through that process, and to begin the process already on that front. In terms of research, the NH and MRC, through successive governments over the last 15 years has provided just over $42 million. But very excitingly, only a few months ago, through the Rare Cancers, Rare Diseases clinical trials program, one of the largest clinical trials that we were able to support was the University of Western Australia's cystic fibrosis test. And instead of a classic, double-blind, placebo, one group on, one group off, what they're doing is looking at multiple different types of treatment and working through the patients to look for what's likely to produce the best and most rapid result. And that's about giving patients the earliest access to the best emerging medicines. And I'm very hopeful that that UWA trial, which is about $3.5 million, but it's not the money, will actually produce a result and help us to be right at the global forefront of the research. And then the other component of research is the genetics and genomics side, where we have the National Genomics Mission, a 10-year, $500 million mission. But the first element of that will be preconception screening in what's known as Mackenzie's mission. And this was a little girl who lost her battle. Her grandfather's here in Parliament House, one of the attendants. And she lost her battle with spinal muscular atrophy. But this testing will open up for 10,000 couples, 20,000 people, the ability to seek preconception screening for SMA, for Fragile X, and for the markers for cystic fibrosis. And so that's a really important stage in our evolution. So what we see is we begin to look for preconception, pre-implantation testing, to then look at prenatal, potential signs, and then for siblings. And when we begin to do that, we begin to find the way not just to diagnose, but to treat and ultimately to cure. And that's our message today. And I know, Nettie, though, the most important thing you wanted to know was the guarantee that if the PBAC proposes, we will list in terms of Orkambi, and that's an absolute commitment. Thank you.